This is Kathy Young, and 16 years ago, in 1999, I wrote a book called Ceasefire, Why Women and Men Must Join Forces to Achieve True Equality. Its working title, by the way, was Beyond the Gender Wars, but this is what we ended up with. It was a book that was certainly very critical of many aspects of modern feminism and the women's movement. And many attacked it as anti-feminist when it came out. Uh, but I actually wrote it as somebody who, as a young woman, had been very excited and very inspired by feminism, and someone who was certainly very supportive of the changes in women's roles and, to a certain extent, men's roles that had happened as a result of the feminist revolution since the 1960s. However, I also wrote this book because I was increasingly alarmed by the tendencies that I saw in the feminist movement and in the broader culture in the 1990s. Above all, it was a tendency to emphasize women's victimization rather than their personal agency and achievements. And this in a culture and in a time when women really have unprecedented rights, opportunities, and freedoms. It was also a tendency to portray relations between women and men in terms of polarization and gender warfare, and specifically a male war against women, as opposed to emphasizing equal partnership. A tendency to politicize women's personal grievances in relationships with men, rather than look at broader gender issues that affect both men and women. And also a tendency to really take a very simplistic and one-sided view of enormously complicated issues such as domestic violence, such as sexual assault, such as gender issues in the workplace, such as divorce and child custody. And I concluded this book with a plea for a new type of philosophy, a new type of movement. And I said at the time, I don't really care if you call it feminism or something else. I'm not really hung up on labels. But the important thing is that it has to be a movement, a gender equality movement, that emphasizes the common humanity of men and women, rather than either a men are from Mars, women are from Venus view of biological differences, or this radical feminist view of gender warfare and women as an oppressed class. I felt that it had to be a philosophy that, above all, treats women and men as individuals. And bridges the gaps between women and men rather than widen them. So that was then, and this is now 16 years later, and I really feel that, unfortunately, in many ways, the problems that I wrote about back then have gotten worse, not better. I think the level of polarization and rancor today is higher, partly, I think, because of the generally higher level of grievance and polarization in society, not just pertaining to gender, but really gender issues are a kind of battlefield that is especially fraught with emotional consequences, given how closely intertwined women's and men's lives are, usually, given the conflicts and problems that are very likely to arise in intimate relationships and are certainly not one-sided. Unfortunately, I think the internet, for all the wonderful things that it has done, the information that it has put at our fingertips, the ways in which it has enabled writers like me to reach a much, much broader audience than ever before, has also promoted polarization to a certain extent, Both by encouraging people to congregate in ideologically uniform enclaves where you never really interact with anyone who disagrees with you, and where people really just reinforce each other's biases. And also by promoting this instant outrage culture where, once again, personal grievances can instantly reach millions, and the level of anger just keeps rising. And culture wide, I think certainly women's grievances are promoted much more than men's. However, parallel to the angry feminist activists, we do today have a certain segment of the men's movement, which has very valid issues, I believe, but at the same time does have its own brand of divisive gender politics, now reaching a much greater segment of society than ever before, again, thanks to the internet. So a lot of the discourse of gender issues today consists of angry feminists and angry men's rights activists yelling at each other. And both of those groups, by the way, have occasionally yelled at me because I am someone who is very critical of antagonistic gender politics on both sides. I think it is still, and actually more than ever, really critical for us to find and formulate this new philosophy that would take us beyond the gender wars and would emphasize the common humanity of men and women, and find ways to discuss the gender-based biases and barriers that are still faced sometimes, both by women and men, in different ways. I think above all, we need to remember to treat people as individuals and to extend our sympathy to human problems, regardless of gender. That is the only way forward. That is the only way beyond the gender wars. That is the only way to not remain mired in old grievances and old injuries that really just continue to hold us back. This is what I'm hoping to talk about on my visit to Toronto and Ottawa, and I certainly look forward to meeting you all, and I hope it's going to be a wonderful event.